You are people listening from every corner of this planet. No knowledge has been dispersed so beautifully, so balanced across the planet, of this planet ever. Maybe in the universe. You have the full potential of achieving everything in the universe. There is no need and there is no reason for man not to achieve. So, wherever you are, the way I taught you to make the coils double coil inside, you have continuous equal gravitational magnetic field, and if you put CO2 on it, and you put zinc on it, you have connected the emotion of the man to it on a stable condition, and you'll find out you become a very peaceful man. Here, instead of having galaxies and universes and creating connection magnetically, we have used the matter state gravitational magnetic field strength to dominate and dictate the shape of the plasma. The nanotechnology, the nanomaterial which you have collectively developed in different ways, by caustic, by electric currents, by whatever, fire or whatever, has that advantage that the matter, the nano and the plasma is all the same. So connection is very solid, it's very strong. The power of the plasma technology, the way we have thought, is beyond imagination of the man. Now you can create and control the plasma, which is the mother of the creation of the universe. You are given the seed of the essence of the creation. The foundation does not belong to no one and is not made of one anymore. You are developing it, you are structuring it, and from today we will be still the same. We'll still develop the technology in different names, in different colors, in different nationalities which they do not exist. It is beautiful when we see the Christian, the Muslims, the Jews, and every other belief are working together to build up systems. We have already become one faith. We already have become one nation, and we already become one planet. You got to remember one thing. Dates is irrelevant. Today is the last day of the Christian calendar, or tomorrow is the beginning of another. One day is connected to another. We don't stop. We are working around the clock. The Keshe Foundation team is working irrespective of time, position, religion, country. And now we achieve what we set out for.
Welcome everyone to the 98th One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace for Tuesday, December 3rd, 2019. My name is Rick Crammond, be your host today. I think we'll have Carolina Keshe available here today, but she hasn't arrived yet. This is the broadcast from the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute, part of the Education Teachings in English. Okay, I welcome you today, and sorry for the loud introduction there. For some reason, the software decided to play everything at full volume, and even though I changed the volume control, there's always something new. Okay, I guess we can just sort of launch into it today, and we'll wait for Carolina to show up later. And so usually we ask if anyone has something they'd like to bring up or present to start today's workshop. Any comments or presentations?
This is Mostek here. Can you hear
Hi,
me?
Mostek. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, good. So we have been talking about a few things, and so today, before we start talking about it, Carolina always talks about bringing your coffee and everything, all those things. So those, we all know the routine. So kind of we can go ahead and do our coffee and everything. I'll add tea to it because where I am, it's pretty much tea. So in any case, so Rick, I talked with Rick a little bit about the child safety issue, and he brought up the things that are happening in Canada. Perhaps we can start with that, Rick, because it's a very soft introduction in the sense of what's happening, which is in a way a manifestation of some of the wishes that we have been doing here. And so I think that might be a good beginning, that video that you sent a link to me, just kind of like summarizing perhaps in what's going on in Canada. And then we can slowly morph into other things. How about that?
Yeah, that's a good idea. I was just trying to get that link lined up here. Just give me a minute. I'll post it in the chats here. So, there it is. So yeah, the video that Mosfek was referring to was the closing ceremony of what's called the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls. And this inquiry has been going on for about 3 years, 2 or 3 years here now in Canada. And they just had the final report and the closing ceremony in June 3rd of 2019. So the other day I started watching this. It's a 4-hour video, and I started watching it, and I just couldn't stop watching. I thought I was going to watch 10 minutes and just kind of skip through, and that was it. That I just got riveted to it because it was so beautiful in the way it was presented. There was a lot of ceremony. Of course, it was closing ceremonies, but I didn't expect so much of the Aboriginal aspect to be brought out in these ceremonies. And there's, drumming and the feathers and all kinds of iconic reminders of something more than the state of the physicality. This this document that was being handed over during this ceremony, they're handing over the quite weighty document to the Canadian government, and from the commission that was commissioned to dig up this information and present it to the public. It was just an amazing ceremony and presentation. There was quite a few lessons to be learned, I think, for well, for myself personally, and also for the world in general, that it might act as kind of a guide for other Aboriginal groups or other countries that are well, dealing with this situation of the missing children and the general abuse and violence and so on that occurs in especially against Aboriginal people, but also against other marginalized people, which were also brought up in the ceremony as well. So it's not just about Aboriginal, but it's about those groups that have been marginalized in the past, and now they sort of they now have a voice, and now they are exercising that voice, and they're making changes and forcing government to make changes and bringing it all out into the public. And it's an amazing, wonderful process, actually. So let me put the link in here so people can, I can't play the video, but fortunately, but it's something that others can. I definitely recommend that people have a look at it. If not, watch the whole thing. I really recommend watching the whole thing, because it is indeed so powerful and so wonderful, the way these the way it's been handled. Okay, I'm just putting the links in the chats here. So this is an example of how Canada has been making some progress, let's say, in that world of trying to obtain some kind of justice or some sense of balance. They even talked about balance in this document, and a return to a balanced condition for the ones that are most vulnerable in our society, namely the children and the various marginalized groups. Okay, any comments or questions about that? Alrighty. Oh, sorry, we got a couple of people with their hands up here. If Estella and Jeanette, if you'd like to go ahead, one of you. Estella.
Hi, good morning, everybody.
Hi.
It's interesting, the topic, because in the last 24 hours, that was my only focus in my brain. And what came to me, a desire of provide a space of safe for those innocent, so, children are sacred for me. The purity, the innocence, and should be honored and protected. And I think one of the biggest deceitfulness for parents, that they think, you send your kid to a place that you think is safe, and it's not safe because they are predators and hidden. So my wish is all this kids from now on to be safe and honored and protected and considered as sacred, is to be, you know, you look at the kid and they're beautiful, so they should be safe. And just that's what I want to support, a safe space. And a strong thing that, and I think a synchronicity, something's happening in the fields, and I think wishing a safe space for these kids that they can elevate themselves and find a planet where they can be happy and safe, you know. I think it's very important that be supported by the surrounding. Thank you.
Yes, exactly. Do you want me to put that down as an actual wish?
Yeah, because
Get that lined up here.
because providing that safety and the more we talk is people get it, you know, because it's like you hear these stories, so you watch these movies, but then you're not connected. You've seen that's what's going on, but then just creating a safe space around each of us for the kids is gonna spread. And now bad intentions can penetrate a good, strong, safe space. That's my wish.
Okay, I was trying to get up the previous wish there, and we did have a wish. From the last time, we had 3 wishes actually for about that protection for children. But I guess we can just start a new one today.
Okay, Rick, you can find the document while Jeanette can talk, I guess, and then you won't be too occupied managing too many things, perhaps.
Yeah, I'm having trouble here getting back and forth in the wiki because I'm in edit mode.
Jeanette, you may want to start. Jeanette, why don't you go ahead and talk? And
Sure. Thank you. Good morning. My comment will also entitle the wish, because I think that Canada and the Indigenous people have bring forth a beautiful concept of what they are and how they see themselves. They call themselves the First Nation people. And I think that is beautiful, that attributes that they give to themselves, because it's the truth. They were the First Nations that inhabit these areas, and they are the owners of the land. And as First Nation, their rights in general were not very much respected. And now they continue with that same curse on top of them, where their children and the women are being also abused and disrespect. So I think that if you were going to ask a wish and implement it, that we use what they like to be called, which is the First Nation people, and that this way they can be respected and addressed directly, because this is something that needs to be brought forth not only in Canada, but in the rest of the earth, where all these Indigenous First Nation people throughout the world who lived in their own societies were pretty much conquered and deprived from what it belonged to them just for the lack of knowledge. That is a typical case, like Mr. Keshe has been bringing forth, that nobody's abused because of the lack of knowledge. And I think that this is one of the things that is most important to be taken into consideration. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Jeanette. And it's true in this inquiry, one of the most important things that came out was the idea of colonialism, and that this is an obsolete idea now, and that it's not okay to be in that mentality of the colonialism and being a colonialist and being the victim of a colonialist system. So that whole mentality has been brought up, and it's now become transparent. It's now become obvious that that is what the government was doing. It was an actual genocide, and it's named that in the head chief commissioner actually called it a genocide. The government was deliberately making sure that the Aboriginal populations were dwindling and not thriving and being incorporated into the colonialist society, rather than being given their own, their languages were taken away. They were put in residential schools. They weren't allowed to even speak their language, or they'd be severely reprimanded. They were taken away from their families and put into this school system. And of course, there are many abuses in that system. So it's
another thing that I think that is important to bring forth is that we could see throughout the new teachings of Mr. Keshe that he's bringing forth in terms of the soul, that we can see how throughout the cultures, the indigenous cultures, they already had this information amongst them. I would like to share with you the concept. Even in Colombia, there is a very important civilization of indigenous people who lived in the center of the country, and it's called the San Agustin culture. And they are depicted, and one of the most important gifts to humanity is their monoliths. And when you see the monoliths that they created, were these humongous stone figures composed of two parts. One part is a man standing with a ferocious jaguar face with these teeth, and then you have another man on top of it. And when you speak and when you go and learn about these people and their belief system, they will always address it of the concept of the me and the super me. It will be the translation as the way they speak to it, the yo and the super yo, which is the me and the super me. So they have already the concept of a higher being that is within themselves, present in that expression of their body and their humanity. So you see, people many years had these concepts that were totally deprived when they came and were colonized and supposedly brought into the civilized world. So little by little, you see how even throughout Peru and all the cultures, they had this love for the sun and for the earth. They even call them the mama, the Pachamama and the Pachataita, which is pretty mother and father. So they already knew who were the progenitors, who were the people or the entities that were giving them the life and the source, without having to go further. Now today we know through the teachings that in the interaction of the fields of the sun and the earth, in the presence of the amino acid, is the body of the man is created, as Mr. Keshe has taught us. So you see that they already knew that. So it's a pity that those informations have been lost, because they were treated like people that didn't know anything about it. So.
Yes, really good point. And that was again brought out in that video of the inquiry ceremony. I noticed that one of the first things they said is when they would start talking is we acknowledge the spirits of those missing and murdered, women and children, and they acknowledge them, the spirits, as being present right there and then, not like it's, we acknowledge them that they're dead and buried. We acknowledge them, they're alive right here, present in the moment. And that was quite powerful in itself, because it's acknowledging that these souls didn't just disappear somewhere and go off to heaven or something like this. They were actually present in the room during this ceremony. And that, was re-acknowledged several times throughout the proceedings. And that was quite...
Look what you just said, it really makes me, sorry. What you were saying, Rick, it brings forth this concept of that the indigenous people always looked into the heavens and looked at the stars and always related their loved ones and their gone ones to the stars. And again, another confirmation of the teaching throughout Mr. Keshe, saying that when other beings see the earth, they see them as stars. So it's one more time the confirmation of what we're being taught and the information that is being brought forward, that they are stars in the heaven.
Yes, indeed. There was another wonderful confirmation in the ceremony when around the 2 hour and 10-minute mark, they do the actual handoff of the document, this very thick, 3-inch thick book, or in fact, there's several books of the results of this investigation. And they do this ceremony where they pass the book around in this circle of those that were involved with this, and they all do this blessing thing where they first of all select a random page and put a marker in it, and then they also take some ashes, the sacred ashes, and a little bit on their fingers and spread it on the page where they randomly opened a page of this book. And well, there's the nanomaterials, the ashes, what we make caustic out of, what we make our sodium hydroxide, you can make it out of ash. Ash is considered a very special, substance. And then after that, right after that, I noticed they had these cups sitting in the middle of the circle. And there were 4 cups. And they were copper cups, strangely enough, pure copper cups. And they had water in them. And the waters in these cups came from east, west, north, and south of Canada. So you're talking about thousands of miles apart, and all of from the 3 oceans, there's 3 oceans that are bordering on Canada's borders, and from the oceans and from the rivers as well. So from east, west, north, and south, and everywhere in between, they said, including the waters from the Arctic, which are the most pure waters of the world. And then they mention how they're put into these copper cups, which purify the water. So they had these 4 copper cups with the purified waters as part of an integral part of this ceremony. It was actually mentioned during this, really quiet, sacred part of the ceremony. The MC mentioned about these cups and how the waters were collected and so on. I thought, wow, that's pretty incredible. I've never seen or heard of copper cups in relation to First Nations ceremonies and so on. So I was just blown away by that. Actually, there's a cup of life right there in the middle of the ceremony. It wasn't a shiny copper cup either. It was quite well It looked like it had a good nano coating on it.
So the story, the Rick is telling the North American version of the colonialism, and then from Jeanette we heard the South American version. We had a similar story in Southeast Asia, as you know. India was colonized for a bit, for about 200 years or so, and it ended at the end of Second World War. And yes, there were a lot of atrocities, and interestingly, you know, some of the Indians who are now getting educated in England, they went to the library, British Library, and they found documents of what was actually done. And yes, it's not the nicest story, because the educational system was destroyed. Essentially, all the intellectuals were killed, teachers, doctors, and so forth. And some of the doctors, as you know, they're the Ayurvedic doctors. So much of the knowledge in that area was, especially the central part of Bengal and Delhi, in that area, Calcutta, in that area, there were a lot of, I mean, it was more active in that regions. The south of India was not as affected. I mean, they were affected, but not as much. But yes, we are finding out these things. And so one of the interesting things about this, yes, none of these are nice things, but me, for example, I now know English, and we are educated. I can relate to people in the West and elsewhere. And so this coming together, the West benefited from some of the things we have, and although they were not that civilized at that time because of the colonization, some people are still not quite there, but they're getting there. And us knowing them, in spite of suffering at the beginning, we are closer to them. Them coming closer to the colonizers who came close to the indigenous people in America, South America, or India. It's the same story. We became in close contact. There were intermarriage, and yes, some of these children did suffer early on because of this kind of so-called not following the rule. But these people, in the end, brought us together. And now we are together. We are becoming one world, or one nation, or one race. So in spite of all these things, we have this colonization has brought us together. And it is a learning experience, although it's a hard learning experience, but it's a learning experience, and we are doing better. So let's focus on this coming together as one planet and one nation, one race, and see what we can do now that we know each other well, and we are starting to respect each other very much. And yeah, there are a few that are not quite there, but with our deep wishes that we are making here, they too will come, although a little slowly, but they will come, or they are coming rather, as to make it in the present tense. Anyway, let's put the wish here. And I also had a wish at some point, I don't know when, 2 weeks or 3 weeks back on this. And this is the one that I wrote in the chat group as well. We'll talk a little bit about this later on, but let's do the wish.
Could I make a brief comment?
Go ahead.
I want to put forth the fact that these First Nations, the indigenous people, and so on, are not innocent. Yes, they had respect, at least in my country over here in the West, in the United States. They had respect for the buffalo. They took only what they needed. They communed with nature and so on. But the different tribes were still warring. They were still killing each other, and they were still enslaving each other. Maybe on a much smaller scale, because of the fact that when you're a hunter-gatherer society, you cannot really increase your population that much. I think there were maybe 30 or 50 million Native Americans in the United States. So they're not innocent. They're doing the same as we're doing today, just on a smaller scale. They were warring, they were killing, and they were enslaving each other. For what reasons, I don't know, whether it was for to increase the land, or maybe the chief's son got killed by accident and it had to be appeased. I don't know, but I just wanted to put that out.
Yes, women and children have been abused on both sides and in all realms, and that's part of the issues that are coming up now. That a lot of the abuses of the past have, on both sides, have started the ball rolling, I guess you might say, and now the ball's being unraveled, and some of those connections have been unveiled and are now more transparent, and we can see where the mistakes were made in the past, and they're trying to correct them now.
Right. My point was they had a lot of correct behavior, but also a lot of incorrect behavior.
Yep, true.
One of the important thing is that let's copy the correct behavior from each other. Then we'll get there very quickly. We are
Yes,
getting there quickly.
that's right. And the Aboriginals did have a number of what do you call it, agreements between the different groups and so on as well, to be allies and not to fight amongst each other. There's some pretty good evidence for that as well. But anyway, let's get back to, I'd like to get the one wish from Estella that we had here. I'd like to get that in before we lose it here. So maybe we can just go back briefly. Estella, can you give me again your wish so I can write it down here?
Basically saying like all women and children should be safe, honored,
Well,
and protected.
wait a minute. Yeah, but we have to make it into a wish. So it's like we wish. Usually we start with, how's it go? We wish.
Wish.
Look at the previous one.
All women and children be safe.
Just a second here. Will I try to get just copy and paste from the previous one? Yeah, that's it. We give from our soul and are present in this wish. That's the part. Okay. Okay, yeah, we usually start out with we give from our soul and are present in this wish. Now go ahead.
That all women and children be safe by honoring and protecting them. I think it's simple, right?
Give from our soul and are present in this wish that all women and children be safe by honoring and protecting them.
Yeah,
Okay.
because that's being respectful. Honoring is like being as allowance, is respecting. It's seeing the beauty, you know. And protecting them is like, you know, supporting them. So those two that create that safe space. So that's why I think it's simple in that way.
All right, very good. Thank you. Okay, now, is there another wish that we want to bring up since then, or are we still working with that?
Can you also add safe and free? By honoring and protecting them.
Okay.
Rick,
Uh-huh.
can we change one little thing here? We give from our soul and are present in this wish that all women and children, instead of the word be, can we use the word are?
Are. Okay.
Safe and free by honoring and protecting them. Okay.
Right.
Thank you,
that's
Peggy.
better.
Thank you, Estella, and all.
It's not going to be in the future. It is our right now sort of thing. Okay, thank you. Very good. All right, I am present. Thank you, Estella.
I am present. Can you fix the year, Rick? We're 100 years and 90 years in advance.
Whoops.
Thank you.
I am present.
I am present.
I am present.
I am present.
I'm present.
I am present.
All right, very good.
Rick,
Yes.
as Universal Support Member for the Spanish community, I would like to bring forth a wish within the context of the mandate. This is a work of Caroline's petition that structured the mandate.
Moi, sur rattrapage, ça, j'étais pas la seule, ça va.
Ursula, your microphone was open. Sorry, go ahead, Jeanette.
Yes, that I was saying that as part of the work of Caroline's petition and the Universal Council to give support to the mandate, I bring forth a wish as a Universal Council supports Spanish. And the wish reads like this: we give from our soul and are present in this wish to bring forth the knowledge and understanding that we live in the present, serving humanity as a way of achieving peace and equality for all.
Okay, do you want to paste that into the chat, or do you want me just to write it down here?
No, I will paste it if you want, no problem.
Okay.
I have to write it down, okay? So give me a second, please.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Anyone else would like to comment on this or something, bring up something new?
Yes, good day, good evening to everyone. Andreas from the German-speaking community. I collected a few wishes from the last public teaching in German, and I have the 5 wishes, and I don't know how we can bring these wishes together in one wish or how we do it. And I've sent it to you, Rick, and maybe we can open them up and create strong wishes for it.
Okay, thank you, Andreas. Let's see.
Rick, before you move into Andreas' wishes, I have just sent you the wish. If you could please bring it up, and if there's any comments or anybody can correct or give or add. This is basically taking in consideration the last part of the mandate, in which it contains several facts. One is the concept that we are living in the present. Second, that we serve humanity as our only purpose. And third, that we are going to achieve peace, and in that way give equality for everyone. Because inequality is where peace is found. Also, this will involve the ethos of conduct, the giving, and also the need of us to communicate our mission to all points of the world so that everybody can join in our idea of serving and achieving equality and peace for everyone.
Okay, that seems pretty complete, but is there any comments on it? Is there anything that anyone sees that might be changed for the better?
How
Yeah, let me-
about Jeanette? Can
Sure.
we do something with the bring forth? Could we maybe use the word this wish to show the knowledge and understanding that we live in the present instead of bring forth? Because again,
Or instead,
that makes
share. Maybe
yeah,
share instead
to show the knowledge and understanding instead of bring forth, because again, we want something that's in the current present statement. What do you think?
Yeah, but instead of showing, share, because the
Share?
knowledge is here.
Yeah.
We need to share it.
You can say share in this moment.
Yeah, share is a current moment word. Thank you.
But when you said in this moment is very strong.
Well, when you are present, the only thing that exists is the moment, because there's no future or past. Even though we live in a linear time, just as a way of showing an experience in this 3D world. So the concept of linear time is part of the premises that we use and live in this 3D as a way of creating the history of the experience that it brings forth in every life of people.
What do we want to do with the word achieving peace? Achieving.
Are in peace.
A way of being at peace? And
Yeah, at this moment.
what do you think, Jeanette?
Yeah, maybe another word, a way of, because we will reach that critical point. Everything is in peace.
Experiencing.
Being at peace.
Experiencing, you do it in this moment. Of experiencing peace and equality.
But it's more the creation of peace or the establishment of peace. It's a condition, I think.
But you experience when you're in peace.
But it's not about your experience, it's about the experience of everyone else.
It's more a condition or a balancing of the fields to create that state. It's a state.
How about anchoring? A way of anchoring peace.
Yeah. Yeah.
Having.
I like the word anchoring or something like that related to anchoring.
What do you think,
Anchoring is
Rick?
good.
It's kind of got a good ring to it. Anchoring peace and equality for all.
Yeah. Can I make a point?
Yes. Sure.
In my understanding, when we use eng in English, we are in a way, and it's not a present moment. And we did not yet. I'm not sure if it makes sense, but if we are thinking in a present moment, using this eng in the end of the verb, maybe it's not the best way to do it.
So I will recommend
Joaquin, if I can just say this one thing is the word anchor is actually a noun, and by adding ing, it's actually becoming a verb, which is an action word instead of a name or a specific item. So I understand what you're saying with the English language and changing future and past tense by using ing. But in this case, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, anyone that knows the language better, I believe we're changing the characteristics of the word anchor from a noun to a verb, an action word, by adding the ing. I don't think it's a time presence in this usage. I think it's more of a, it makes it a doing word instead of like a personal name. You are the anchor, you know, for the boat. Now you are anchoring. You are the thing that's causing something not to move and not change. Anyway, just my thoughts on that. And I appreciate you bringing those details up about the English language. A refresher course is always good.
Would it be better to say as a way to anchor peace and equality for all?
that would clarify it. What do you think?
Yes.
To anchor is future tense. I think anchoring is present. I think we should leave it the way it is.
Okay, I'm sold. Anybody else like to weigh in on the anchor, so to speak?
Because in my way of understanding, but my English is not perfect, okay? But in my way of understanding, when we say anchoring, we are in a process and we have not yet. That's my understanding. But I'm not sure about what verb to use in that case.
But it is a
this way,
process.
we have anchored peace and equality for all. Is that what you mean, Joaquim? In this way, we have anchored peace, meaning already done. Is that better?
Yeah, because if we are trying to create things, we need to take care with the words. And so that's why I'm pointing that. I don't know exactly how to explain everything that I am thinking, but in some ways is that we need to use words that will present the situation as already realized.
I definitely like the anchored. It is definitely firm when you say anchored instead of ing. Doug, how did you say, because you rephrased this a little bit to make anchored fit in there, right?
In this way, we have anchored peace and equality for all.
What do you think, Jeanette? I like that.
Yes, yes, sure.
I like that.
Thank you, Joaquim. You made me think about the others for translation purposes. Yes, we're using English to write
What
this up
about
here, but in the future for translation, that makes sense.
what about if you take the ed because that brings a past anchor or anchor, just the word anchor? Can you do it like that, Peggy? Anchor instead of anchored?
When
Not
you mention,
really.
No?
That's not really correct. Yeah. In
but
this way, we anchor. Well, no, that in this way, we anchor peace and equality. Yeah, that's good.
because when I remember when I study English, the ing is the action happening, but when you use the verb does and do, like anchor, you're saying something is happening always. Like I used to do something, or I play tennis. I do, you're talking and the is always happen. You always do it.
Yes. Yes. And that's what I was saying about the going from noun to a verb, an action word with the ing. So yes, Estella, very good. Yes.
It's a truth. It's basically you stating a truth is always existing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's good. Anchor. Once we anchor, it stays, and that's good. I like that.
Okay, thank you. We've got a couple of people with hands up here. Do you want to go ahead, Marinez? And I think Theodore's after that.
Yes. Okay. First, I wish for a treatment for all emotionally hurt or disturbed beings.
Wait a minute, Mehran. I don't think we're quite done this wish here yet, but if you want to hang on to that a minute, then we'll deal with this wish and make sure we're done with it, and then we can add a new one. Okay, hang on just a sec. Theodore,
Yes.
did you have a comment on this, or was it a separate wish?
You're talking to me?
No, I'm talking to Theodore.
Hey, Rick. Yeah, this is Ted Theodore. I was thinking about the anchor thing, that if I was speaking, to my higher self, and I was saying, I am anchoring in something, or I anchor in something. I feel like when I say it out loud and I say, I anchor what I want, I anchor love. I don't say I anchoring love. So I think anchor could be a present verb if you wanted to feel it that way. Does that make sense to you?
Somewhat. You could say I anchor, but what about I am anchoring?
Yeah, you could say I am anchoring, but you could also say I anchor the energy of love and happiness to everyone around me constantly and completely. You could say that, and I think it would be correct. Or you could say I am anchoring, but I think you could use anchor as a present verb if you wanted to, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So it sounds like we ended up with the correct phrasing here. So is everyone happy with this wish as it stands?
Yes,
I am present.
Going twice.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
let's
think
just.
that it's important, Rick, that everybody, despite that their language is not their primary language, that they feel happy, because it's through the resonance and the amplification of their thoughts that we're going to be able to implement this. If somebody in another speaking community does not receive this, even though they might not master the language in the correct way, I think the amplification is not going to be as important as we can get to agree everybody in the word. Thank you.
I am present.
Let me just read it once again here, and then we can do our presences. We give from our soul and are present in this wish to share the knowledge and understanding that we live in the present serving humanity. In this way, we anchor peace and equality for all. I guess maybe "and" in this way might be appropriate. Okay, I am present.
I am present.
I am present.
I'm present.
I am present.
Sorry, people, I apologize to interrupt, but could we flow better the last part? Because when you read it, Rick, the flow didn't come to me as I wanted originally to flow. And if you want to read it again, and I apologize with everyone, but just read it again, and please, people, focus on the last part, the way the entire phrase comes into that last portion with the "and," like it doesn't flow as naturally. So would you please, Rick, read it again, and so what people have to say?
Yeah, I would do and understanding that we live in the present, serving humanity to peace and equality for all.
To peace and equality? That doesn't make sense.
No, because we want to, the condition of the wish is that there's certain factors. One is that we have knowledge, and through knowledge, we understand that the way to exist in this reality is that we need to be present. And by being present with the ideal of serving humanity, we are peacemakers. And through
equality that peace is achieved. That is my concept of the wish, putting together the last portion of the mandate. I don't know if it will be important to bring the mandate to the screen, because this way you can understand what this wish came from. It was through the reading of the last portion of the mandate, and those are the concepts that are there.
Hello, Jeanette, I lost you there. Can understand?
No, because we can understand through reading the mandate what this wish encompasses. As I was mentioning, there's certain points that the mandate includes in the last portion, which are knowledge, understanding, living in the present, being serving to others and not to self, and peace and equality. Like those are the main factors of that last portion of the mandate. So if basically we just could bring into the last and maybe another connecting word that will allow the sentence to flow much better. So if you could read it and maybe you can understand what I'm trying to say, would you be so kind and read the phrase, please?
Okay. We give from our soul and are present in this wish to share the knowledge and understanding that we live in the present, serving humanity, and in this way we anchor peace and equality for all.
Bueno, this time it sounds better. Is anybody has a different word that we could unite humanity and in this way, instead of that and, so that it could connect and have a better flow? Any ideas, Peggy?
Just drop the and, I think, the way it was before we put the and in between humanity and in this way, because there's quite a few ands in the sentence.
Correct.
And it's not really necessary, is it? When you read it without that and, that last and, second last and.
It would have to be a new sentence because it doesn't read right without the and. I'll read it. We give from our soul and are present in this wish to share the knowledge and understanding that we live in the present, serving humanity. In this way, we anchor peace and equality for all. It doesn't flow.
You would have to have a semicolon
Yeah.
and remove the word N if you wanted to do it that way. It'd have to be a semicolon.
Yeah, or a new sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or a whole new sentence.
What about after humanity, comma, therefore in this way, we anchor peace?
I agree with the comma.
Yeah. Could you read it, please?
Okay, we give from our soul and are present in this wish to share the knowledge and understanding that we live in the present, serving humanity. Therefore, in this way, we anchor peace and equality for all.
Excellent. I am present.
Okay, I am present.
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 I'm present.
I am present.
I am present.
I am present.
Thank you all.
I am present.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And I see we have our special guest today is here now, Carolina. Hello, and would you like to come in and take over? I noticed also we have G-Man with that has his hand up, and I wasn't sure if it was just to say you're present or whether you have something else you wanted to say there.
No, that was it. Thank you.
Okay, great, thanks.
So I go ahead for my wish.
Well, we haven't heard from Carolina, so go ahead, Marinez.
Aha, madness. Well, we can put it in two ways. One, I wish all emotionally I wish for a harmless treatment for every emotionally hurt beings everywhere.
Sorry, go ahead. I wish for harmless treatment.
Yeah, there is a model. I wish for a harmless treatment for every emotionally hurt being everywhere. Hurt beings. Beings, S, all beings. For every emotionally beings with S, please, thank you. Or I could put, I wish for a harmless way of treating all emotionally hurt beings. Another ways. Because I think there is some silent abuses. Meher H. R N A. Can I have another one? A small one? Oh, that should be.
Sure.
The second one is, I wish for establishing premarital education for new couples on family and children. Education on family and children for the new couples. Or governmental education.
Mehnaz, what you're asking is already exists.
Government education before marriage.
There is all sorts of education. If anybody wants, can go and
No. I think couples need to be educated on marriage and children, especially on education, because they don't go to read in the books. They have to be obliged to learn how to educate children. This way we can economize on a lot of waste after that.
Well, this is exactly what the government did with the Aboriginals, though, Marinez. They educated them, they sent them to school, they put them through the residential school system, and it completely messed up an entire many generations actually of beings because of that government education. So you're going to have to be a little more specific other than just government education.
The intention is that children, that a mother has the know-how how to educate correctly a child, because there are books written about that. There are psychological or physiological education, and mothers, they just do it by by
Hope and prayer method.
It means that if parents get education on children and family, they would economize a lot of heartbreak after that. Because we cannot, if we learn how to grow a plant, it's better than we grow it like that. It's the same thing. If we know where to put the roses, the plant of rose in the sun, in the whatever, and how much we give water, it's a better plant than if we do it no matter what. We have to know, to have a know-how. Like when we do a kitchen, we make a food, we have to have a recipe. And we have to have the recipe to raise the children, to make the best of the child and the best for the family.
Well, yes, but to say that the government knows the best for a family is not correct.
Oh, no, not the governments of fascists.
Oh, let's take the government out then.
The future governments.
Just establishing education, because the education should actually come, if it's an Aboriginal family, it should come from their Aboriginal customs and not from the government. It should come from their own ceremonies and their own knowledge, because they've had that knowledge for many, many millennia already.
Okay, maybe the government is, we can check it out. What I meant that they are not supposed to pay for it, because if you say you go and pay for it and do it, they don't go. But it should be kind of mandatory that you want to marry, you take courses on how to take care of your husband or wife, and what things to do, what not to do. When you have a child, how to take care of yourself. When you have a child, a small one, how to take care of it, and up to 18. I think we could economize a lot in society, and heartbreak and problems in families. There is no know-how. Around me, nobody reads the books to raise the children, honestly.
Merman, I see more once you're connected to your soul, you're connected to other people. I see maybe the wish is like people help each other more. You don't need to go and take a class, like, you know.
I talk about average person with average education, with average financial.
But you educate by talking to others. I mean, it's about serving and helping.
I'm dead by then. I'm talking about future, because we cannot raise the children.
The knowledge is in the fields. When people get connected and they help each other, they're learning and then they receive. And the point is to be people connected through souls. And that's the real school.
You mean we continue the same education?
No, when you're connected to your soul, you're receiving the knowledge through your soul.
Well, are you connected to your soul?
Yes, I am.
Well, good luck. Yeah.
That's the whole point of.
Do you have to raise the children?
You know, a mother is the center of the fields.
Even at 18?
And that's why if you if we really comprehend the knowledge what Mr. Keshe explained,
No,
the womb of the
no,
mother,
no.
the womb
It's
of the
not the
mother.
mother. At 18, these girls, 18, 19, 20, 25, they don't know a lot about education of children.
No, I don't agree.
Okay, so we continue the same society with all this
No,
waste of
I
the
know
time.
I know the nature of women. They know they provide the love, support, the
Mehran, I also
protection.
think it's in our. I
Yeah.
also think it's in our instinct that how to
Yeah.
how to be around our children, and even if somebody creates a, for example, a wrong energy within the atmosphere that we are or the children are, and we feel that it's not right, it's not correct, and or even for example, I don't know if it's a wild animal running towards a child and the mother is around that child, whether it's educated or not, it's an instinct of a person or a mother, doesn't matter.
Yes.
A family
Yes.
just jump to save that child. So we have it
Who are you?
us. Even if we didn't get educated, we have it. That's where we can
What's your name?
recognize.
What's
That's
your
where
name?
my name is Jimon, and that's where we can I
You
think
have
that's where we can
children?
recognize the soul.
You have children?
I have three three children, and I wish for more. Yes, I do.
Okay.
And he's a man. So I think he's so connected that
No,
the
I'm not
same, the
connected.
same,
My mother is
this,
not connected. My neighbor is not connected. The
but
girls
that's the
are
whole
not
wish, Merman. The whole wish is that we all be connected in peace and harmony.
good luck. I talk
Well,
about the real problem.
right now, I hope you understand this. Maybe you
Hallelujah.
just
No,
take it.
Can I ask two questions from Mehran, please? One question is that do you have children? I think you do.
Why do I have to answer?
No, you don't have to answer. For example, do you know somebody who doesn't have that sort of education? You do, right?
I observe a lot of people because I'm interested. I watch a lot of
course.
psychology.
Sorry, I just want to prove to you that we have everybody.
And I don't agree with you. In real world, in America, a lot of people, young people, are causing problems for their family. They are into drugs. They are into labor before age. And with the youngsters, there's mostly problems. And
but if you remember, also there comes a time, I believe, also that we do not need the marriage system. Now that because the part of this wish is, I see that it's talking about the marriage, couples marriage. I don't think in future there will be. I mean, it's optional. You can get married in space, but
like where I live, in the city I live, 50% of the marriages end not long time after in divorce.
Yes, I believe you. Yes, I believe you.
That is a waste.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me please say something. Merman, you back into a cycle that you're gonna create all what you're saying. Don't forget what Caroline told you a week ago. And I just only want to say that you need to take some quiet moment, rethink, listen to last week. And if you have a wish, focus instead to judge and to bring the negative.
Okay, so if you think, if Rick, you don't think it's a good, it's completely okay. I just wanted to help. but that doesn't matter at all.
Well, it's kind of interesting. You question someone, do you have kids? But you can, you put
perfect.
yourself like you don't want to answer if you have kids or no kids. So,
No, that's my private life, and I don't.
well, but why you question that?
I don't, because the way some people talk.
Well, I'm
don't
sorry,
know
but you know what?
Okay, I thought
I'm sorry, but that's not the
if
proper
I am
way.
the minister one day, I'll do that in my place of power. I will absolutely educate the young people before marriage. But I have no power. I just made a wish, but it's okay because we have to be first connected. That's all right. Thank you very much. And because I have to go to the gym actually, and I'm too late. Thank you very much.
Have a good day.
Thank
May I make a comment?
Sure, go ahead.
I'd like to ask it's more of a question, but it's also a comment and something to ponder at the same time. I would like for everyone to think, what would happen to all those families which have problems, be it marital problems between the spouses or problems with the children? What would happen to those people when we connect them to their soul?
I think is the same when they say when you transcend this body, that you feel this incredible unconditional love of acceptance, and it doesn't matter if you did wrong or right. It's just such a pure, strong love that you're completely surrendered to the moment of what is to be within the Creator. Doesn't it happen that you suddenly you feel bad and you find a friend, or you go back to your house and you see everybody happy, and then they say, wow, you know? And you forgot the past. You're staying in the moment and you stay in that bliss. I think when you feel love, you don't go back and the negative. And that's why it's so important to self-see yourself when you get back into an old program of, you know, you acquire this in this society. They tell you do this, do that, do that, you know, feel guilty, fear. But when you're with the loves around you, it's like being under a tree, feeling the fresh air. You're like, wow, what a beautiful day. You're not thinking that yesterday was a bad day. And that's why I think it's important we focus on the love and the solutions, and not judging, because there is no wrong or right. We just need to bring the feels to being the best and the bliss. I love you guys. And Mehran, if you're here to me, I want you to understand this. This is very important. Thank you.
I think we're not entering in, we're learning not to enter into how people raise their children or which education system is better, because getting back to the Indigenous people, that was the whole problem, that the people that were colonizing thought that they had a better way. They took a glimpse at the surface, a surface glimpse of the Indigenous peoples and said, it's all wrong, it's completely wrong. They're not dressed the right way. They're not singing our songs. They're not dancing to our tune. They're whatever. they're not behaving the way we behave. And they tried to superimpose what they thought was a better system upon those people who had been living for thousands and possibly even millions of years, you know, doing what they do and so on. So I think we should remove ourselves away from trying to establish whatever system for families and just concentrate on raising or elevating the souls in a detached way, and send that detached wish for elevating the souls out with no judgment and no, you know, as we've been learning just lately, no, you know, preconditions, no conditions at all, just sending out the elevation fields, and people will take what they need from that, whether they're so-called dysfunctional or whether they are not. They'll, you know, all the humanity and even the animals will pick up the elevated fields and adjust themselves. It's not for us to adjust anybody. It's for them to feel the fields that are being created by this detached wishing, and that's the way it works. I think it's not, you know, it's not interfering and judging and looking around and seeing. Remember, Carolina's talked about the father and his 3 children on the bus or the train, and they were running amok, and somebody was upset and said to the father, you know, why don't you control your kids? You know, they're just disturbing. They're horrible. And the father just hung his head and said, well, what am I to do? We've just come from the hospital and their mother has just passed away. Well, that sort of probably made everybody within earshot think a little bit about judgment, I think. And you just don't know. We're not in a position to judge which education is right and whether we should be married or whether we shouldn't be, or that person should do what I think is correct, then I'll be happy. That's kind of like a power trip to try and control and bring everything, you know, to suit me, you know, and then I can feel like, you know, that's good. Everybody's doing what I want. But that's not what we're about. We're just being detached and sending out elevation of the soul to everyone that they can take or leave. They can. It's their choice. It's not up to us. Elevate your soul this way or elevate your soul that way or anything like that. We're just creating the fields so that souls can elevate as they wish to elevate or as they need to elevate, and that's their business. It's not our business. Sorry, but I just thought I'd say that.
Can I add in?
Go ahead.
This is Ted, and I was wanting to say that it's kind of the way I feel, understanding that when we find a problem, which if, you know, there's an identification that maybe there is a problem with, you know, children, and we're working on becoming better at it. And I think, well, where did it come from? And sometimes it makes me think that maybe we have, as a humanity as a whole, as Earth as a whole, not really handed down the knowledge correctly from generation to generation. And we're a group, no matter what continent we're trying to put this puzzle back together again about how we are supposed to get the knowledge correct so we can transfer it down to generation collectively. And I think when we take into consideration the different techniques that are still like heirloom or carried down, then and combine them together. And I think that's why we come together in this group and why we want to learn together and why we are knowledge seekers, is because we are looking to correct it. And if we can resonate together And like you all say, if you're connected to the soul, you connect. I mean, every answer is within us too. And we can find how to raise our children again, if that is our wish. But I think there is a little bit of truth to the fact that we have stepped back in a way from maybe in past generations, they were a little more in tune with the technology we're speaking on. And now we're trying to relearn it in a way and revisit it and make it stronger and maybe even go beyond what it ever was. And that's how I feel about it. And I think that can give some positivity and what the true goal is, and what we truly could do together if we come together and focus on the things that we agree upon together, instead of the slight nuances that we don't, and carry that field. Because I think that when we get to another level of knowledge and understanding, it's very important that we all allow like a freedom to come through where we focus on just what we all agree on, as opposed to try to understand what we don't agree on, because there's just so much power in that. When it's like what they said about moving the car, and when 5 people are trying to move it, it's hard. But when 100 people try to move the car, it's not that hard. And it's like that. If we can just kind of narrow down the focus a little bit and then feel it and resonate it together, I think it's ultra powerful. And that's why I love what we do together. And I love the peace teachings, and I love getting better at understanding, working in the present moment, and making these wishes collectively. Because we can all make wishes and pray and do different things on our own, but it is very powerful to come together and to utilize the platform and the media like we do. And I just want to say that because I love you all very much too. And I think it is important that we care about each other and find that collective resonation together. Thanks for letting me get that in there, Rick.
Thank you. That is it. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Doug again here. I have, Trish and I have 2 children, a girl and a boy, and they're now they're about 40 years of age, and they have not traveled the same path, yet they were brought up inside the family. And, you know, you may think, why has there been such a divergence of behavior and choices? And I'm in the middle at the moment of practicing what we've been learning in the last few teachings about not judging. You know, I may prefer, to my mind, the behavior of one child over the behavior of another child. But it's not really for me to, because I have tried and it's failed, to interfere or change or offer advice which is taken as criticism or whatever. And a parent has these lessons that they must learn themselves about, you know, loving unconditionally all of the children, even when it appears, you know, that you would have a favorite child, or you know, one that's pleasing and one that's not so pleasing. And it's a very deep lesson that I'm currently working, Trish and I both are working through in ourselves, that not to be guilty about mistakes, possible mistakes that have been made, which are only human mistakes. Nothing was done with the intention of hurting or creating a monster or creating a beautiful, wonderful, you know, child. It's just a process that is, you know, when you become detached, you're not, you release yourself from those emotional binds that, you know, you can sink into when you become attached to the emotions of where did I go wrong, or why did this happen, and why have they made those choices? Well, they just have. And through the simple wishing to elevate the soul from our soul to their soul, you don't meddle in their affairs. You don't give them a stern talking to, and you don't do that. You just simply wish for your soul to be elevated, and wish for their soul to be elevated, and ultimately for all souls to be elevated. And with that detached wish, I think we'll achieve, all the things that we wish, all the things that, well, let's say we have achieved those things. Perhaps it's not obvious, but I think it's well underway. And anyway, these are the deep lessons, personal lessons you have to learn. I can only speak as a parent. I'm not speaking for everyone. I'm just speaking for myself, and I am speaking for Trish. She's not here, but I think she would agree. And it's not easy to pull yourself back from judgment and from interference and from what's right and what's wrong for other people. Really, you can't do that, because as we've been taught recently, every soul is exactly where they wish to be. They've taken themselves on that journey, and it may appear to be, a dead end, or it may appear to be disastrous, but it's what they need. They've chosen that journey, and in the fullness of eternity, or in the next moment, they will find themselves exactly where they're meant to be. And that's the same for individuals and the whole planet. I think, sorry to go on, but I just, it's very interesting we're talking about this, and it's just very current in my life as a parent. So anyway, I'll just let anybody continue.
A good point there, Doug, for sure. I noticed.
That might be the call for me.
Go ahead, Nikolai. You had your hand up there.
Okay, thanks, guys. I'm just about to go into an appointment, so I just wanted to say something quickly, and that was that in what Mehran has brought, there was actually an underlying wish which was nothing to do with what she first said, and I wanted to make it clear, and I hope somebody else caught this as well, that there was something underneath that wish, which underneath the judgment or whatever we want to call it, or the conditions that it appeared were being placed upon that wish, there was actually a wish for those suffering from emotional trauma to be released of that in a positive, in a very a process of that trauma in a peaceful manner. And so I'm about to go into an appointment and I can't partake, but I'll jump back in when I'm done. And I would urge anyone who feels called to bring that back in to work with that field, because there is something there that we can address in a wish in, I believe, the correct way. But I don't know if it's if she's still in the class, Mehran, if you are, perhaps that's something that could be addressed. And if it's just to be passed for the next time, well then so be it. But that's what I wanted to say. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I think we lost you there, Nicola.
Hello,
Can't hear
it's
you
Pia
right
here.
now.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, that's something to consider. I thought maybe we could move on to
Rick, may I say something? I don't know if Pia wanted to say something as well.
Yes, I
Pia?
want.
Yes, please. Go ahead, then I will speak. Thank you.
Okay, I would like to pick up on what just was said about this emotionally part. I would like to also ask you, but couldn't there be a transitions period until we are elevating all the souls? We are in a process now where we want to elevate. We are doing it. We are all elevating, and we are elevating every soul on this planet. And in this period, we also have the transition. It cannot happen from one day to another. It's a big process, and there will be people who will get in touch with this soul before others. And I can also follow what you said about the release of the emotions and need or wanted to develop ideas, or that's also what I tried to do with this presentation some weeks ago, just to bring to the table that we can have inspiration and ideas to bring to the table. So we can, in a way, give tools, just suggest tools. It's not an enforcement. It's just like we can give each other from different cultures, from different nations. We can share ideas and tools which actually will help to elevate the souls, because we know we have this enhancement unit coming, and this will do a lot. It will do everything. We know that. But will it happen in one day, or will it happen in 1 year, or will it happen in 2 weeks, that we elevate all the souls on this planet? Or do we still need a period of transition where we want to take a step up and inspire schools and teachers and parents to step up and find better ways, because there is many children who are very confused, and parents who don't know how to raise their children. I was actually talking with some teachers some days ago, and also educators, and they were quite frustrated because they told me, and I've heard this before, that there's so many children coming to the daily schools and institutions every Monday morning, and they're very frustrated, and they have to spend the whole week, nearly 3 days, to help them to settle down. And then they're telling stories about parents coming and claiming that it's the school who have to take care of the children. It's the school and the teachers who have to raise their children. So apparently there is many children who young parents maybe, who actually have no guidance, who have no groups that can go and talk, and how can I educate my child? And many of them give up. And so there is maybe a problem. So can this enhancement unit, can this elevating the souls, can this be done in so short of time? Or do we need also to supplement this with new tools and new ideas and new discussions? So that's what I wanted to ask you.
Well, a lot of this came up in that video of the missing women and girls in Canada. And what some of the results they come up with is that there needs to be more support for young families and young people in general, and children in general, and a lot of that comes to really basic things like, do they have adequate food? Do they have clean water? Do they have clean air to breathe? Do they have basic health services, medical and dental and so on, as well as mental health services for those that are in need? And all of these kind of support networks are part of that bigger picture that manifests when there is that soul support to start with, basically, that that intention that those beings are worth it, that there's a soul there that really could use some assistance, some support. So it's more than just wishing, in the sense that the wishing and the soul support is number one, and it's underlying, and it's part of our what we do from this venue here and so on. But there's also these services and support networks that are important as on the physicality end of things, to alleviate the suffering that's going on that level. So I don't know if it's not something that we necessarily have to get into all the intimate details of those means of support. That's part of what other people do when they're inspired to do so. But suffice to say that there hasn't been adequate services generally around the world, and specifically in Canada. If we look at just the water supplies, the contamination and inadequate water in most of the Aboriginal communities is just atrocious. The government is addressing that finally in the last few years, but you know, they can't even get clean water to drink. So this is the severity of the problem in a way. On the other hand, there's something that came to mind, which is, you know, we have this, on the one hand, the idea of alleviating suffering in others, but on the other hand, we have, sometimes you have to allow people to go through their own suffering in order to learn, in a way. So if we look at, again, the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in Canada, if you look at that video and you go through the ceremonies and listen to the people that have gone through this suffering and are going through this suffering and have you know, brought that to the surface in the last few years, and after it being more or less not talked about or hidden in many ways. You know, you might know about somebody that's causing abuse, but it would be not talked about. It wouldn't be brought out because you might be persecuted by your community if you were to do so. It would, you know, it would upset the balance and so on. But now there's a different mentality. It's no longer tolerated. This idea of abusing others is simply not tolerated. The grandmothers have come together, the grandfathers have come together, the mothers have come together, the fathers have come together, and they've come together not just with themselves, but have actually confronted their abusers and confronted the government and shame them, in a sense, by bringing the facts to light. And this has given them a certain power, a certain confidence that it's okay to be yourself and to, you know, ask to exist, to not ask, but demand that your existence be tolerated, at least by others, if not completely supported and accepted. And this is the new demand of the individuals of this planet, and especially of the Aboriginals in Canada. And in a way, you know, this, what I saw in that video, and some of these people that were speaking, or even not speaking, just doing the drumming or doing the some of the ceremony work and so on, we're talking about very powerful beings that, because of what they came through, has made them so much stronger and so much more aware and so much more in the present, that they feel their the presence of the other souls that are missing and so on. But they also feel the beauty and the hope and the potential with the children of today. And that was really brought out in that ceremony. They actually had two children that were playing the whole time up in the front of the ceremony, and during all these speeches and so on. They were two younger children were up at the front of the stage, and they also mentioned that there was someone pregnant with two children, with twins, that was due to deliver any minute during the ceremony, and that it was so important that this is what they were working for, was for this alleviation of the the unnecessary suffering that occurs due to the circumstances of, well, they went back to the roots, what is causing this in the historical roots, at least, and also in the spiritual roots, in the soul level. They have ways of addressing that and so on. So anyway, for our purposes, we sort of try to go beyond the specifics and work toward the soul level and make the changes there, and let the physicality take care of the details after that, in a way. Okay, we have a couple people with their hands up here. Stella.
Yeah, I wanted to bring something forward, and that is in reference to the comment that Myrna did. I think that at a certain point she was talking from her heart, and maybe are things that are affecting her within her community. And in a way, many of us have suffered the same thing, that when we become beacons of knowledge and change, when we bring it into our community and our family surroundings, sometimes we create this condition of turmoil, because we are moving the foundations of the status quo of the belief system of the people that live around us, and it creates a lot of resistance. So I do feel that we are at least in my case, I am close, I'm 60, 62, and I feel and I see that we are the people that brought in the change. The way we were brought up and what we were encouraged to follow as a behavior in society has totally changed. Our kids today, at least my kids, are very different, and they're bringing this change. So we are like in the middle of this fluxing of society with their new values and their new way of behavior, and maybe if we stop and look at what's going on, and maybe the children are teaching us to change. The children are giving us this new way of behaving that is maybe helping us to open up our minds, and maybe see that we need to change, and that maybe the old structures of society maybe need to be readjusted and reconditioned according to the fields, and repositioned to bring new knowledge and new options of experience that will allow us to become better in terms of the new possibilities that is bring forth for us to choose. So I do feel that Myrna needs a little bit of support in terms that she's having a lot of maybe confrontation within her society for things that are happening, and instead of her rejecting them, maybe if she embraces them and see that this is a way of the kids, teaching them of new options, could be a possibility of her whole family structure to be more open, and maybe with that create new avenues of balancing fields that adjust to these new comings. Thank you.
May I talk?
Sure, go ahead, Stella.
So all what we be talking about and the wishes, what I see is through the experience of connection through the soul. That's where each soul elevates through the experience, through doing it, through some people, like you said, suffer a trauma and they need to go through this process in order to heal and elevate themselves. Regarding Merma, and I think I agree with Nicholas, but my point of view would be to wish that all this support system, because we are in transition, the old schools or the old way of educating is educating from outside, and the new knowledge is learning the knowledge through the experience from connecting within. And my wish is those peoples that they're looking for support or they need to be touched by the knowledge. So I truly believe in, like in each school, there is always a good teacher working from the heart, and they connect to those souls that they can, elevate their souls through the fields of the knowledge, because we are in transition. And I agree with Jeanette and Dan, and the kids are our
Sorry, the kids are what? You
what
broke
I
up there.
experienced is inverted. When you become a parent, I was you think you need to actually you guide, you support, and you allow kids and pretty different and
Sorry,
allow
Stella.
kids,
Stella,
to be
your line's breaking up and we can't hear you. It's too hard to hear. Can you repeat what you said, the last sentence?
Okay. It's allowance, allow it, and
Allowance,
be
you
the
said?
allowance and be the guide.
Okay, allow and
The
be the
guide.
guide, you say? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you mentor your kids, but the kids need to have their own experiences.
Right.
That's how
exactly.
they connect to their own soul, and you exchange feels. It's a two-way learning process, and that's the beauty of this knowledge. The balancing of the fields goes through the experience, and through exchanging the fields to each other, that's the serving. But at the same time, you keep working in your elevation. Anyway, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Estella. Dean, you've got your hand up as well.
Peace. Mic check.
Yep, we hear you. Thanks.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. I'm going to speak out of the I'm going to say the force of my soul. When I had children, when I knew I was going to have a child, because of what had happened in my past, I was so afraid and depressed. I sat on the heater for 9 months as my son was being incubated. And because of the abuse that I had suffered, it scared me to death, that literally almost to death, that this is what I was going to face with my son because of what had happened to me. I put up a shield of my soul
for my children at that time with a wish and a desire and a vision of what I wanted to see them walk into and be able to interact with physicality. And because of the strength of my desire and my wife's desire and our holding together the vision, I can actually say that my children are in a position right now, both of them, all three of them, and children by love, that they're literally changing the world. And when I hear what we're talking about right now, I'm going to take it back to what Mr. Cash said 3 weeks ago about our responsibility to report the things and to bring down the things that are destroying the children. This foundation, we've been rocked by human trafficking, child abuse, pedophilia, and all of these things. And it's in the strength of our soul, our spirit, and where we're going forth from here. This is just Dean Michael Hansen's opinion. We can't think about governments. We can't think, we have to take, with the power of our souls, grab hold of the substance and bring it into manifestation of peace. Because it's not through the governments, it's not through what's been before. Because from what I hear, everything is changing right now. New technology, new power source, new food. All of the things that we've struggled with in the past, we have to let those things go. And with the power of our spirit, the power of our souls, I think we have to grab hold of what we have right now. And not necessarily in the physicality or in the hallucinations of our mind that have been implanted into us of how things work, because it is not how things work. You know, we're not Newtonian reductionist. We're dealing in plasma science. We're dealing with a whole new paradigm of existence.
Excuse me, your microphone is rubbing against something. So.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you very much. And I just think, I know from my own experience with my children what desire and, you know, prayer and desire just, I mean, for me, it was fasting and praying and all of the other things. And I don't think that's necessarily necessary. But I think we have to move beyond governments into the strength of the spirit and I guess maybe the attributes of God. And we have to grab hold of those and say, we're pushing these. No, we're going to rest in these. Anyway, that's enough from Dean right now. I just want to say, you know, peace be with us and the desires of our hearts and the meditations of our minds and the education that we've received. Let it be established in physicality and let it be now, because now is the time. Peace, guys. Thanks for the time.
Very good. Thank you, Dean. G-Man, go ahead.
Yes, just in confirming what Dean was just saying, it's very interesting. I also agree with him. I had a pleasure once when I was in Canada. I was in Vancouver, in your area, Rick, and I used to live on North Vancouver, and I had a pleasure of meeting head of a First Nation tribes of that area, Mr. Capilano. Maybe I shouldn't bring names up in here. But they have told me these First Nations have been destroyed. When you look back into the history, it's by the governments. The way the British came to Canada and what they did to them, they have destroyed the heads of the tribes, heads of the tribes, and this is outrageous. This is what we should not get back into again. I've traveled in central Canada. I've seen. Now we are talking about how the First Nations have been pushed away from the cities, and when I was in Winnipeg, I could see the children, even though Canada is, we call it one of the first world countries, but that's one of the only places that I saw youngsters. When I say youngsters, I mean 8-year-old and 10-year-old walking with a bottle of whiskey in their hands in the street, and police car drives by without doing anything. This I have seen that with my own eyes, and it should be that we should put a stop into that. And I think if we make a wish, we should make a wish for the new generations of these nations to elevate their souls, to awaken them, that what their original bloods and original their originality, what was their originality, and what was the message from their past, the way they did things, the way they did. I mean, maybe what we call education nowadays, today, and what they had back in the days, and they passed on to the generations, one to other. And it was kind of the intention of the governments at that time was to fade that away. And I heard that firsthand from the heads of the tribes. If there is a wish from us, collectively put together, is to elevate the souls of remaining the people who are left, and the children and the new generation, to elevate their souls, and how they somehow, for them to connect with their origin, and maybe us of other people, for us also there is something to be learned from them and from their originality and their message. I confirm with that the wish for governments doing something is not something that should be done, to be honest with you guys. It's I agree on that. Thank you.
Yeah, with governments, instead of wishing, you simply make a demand, and that's what this report essentially came up with, a series of demands and it's very explicit, and it's, you know, it is, they're not putting up with it anymore, period. And the demands are very direct and very extreme in the sense of the past. And, you know, this whole colonialism thing has been now revealed and in its full extent, or as much as history can churn up at this time. And that's made a complete change of attitudes and the whole way the government processes things now. That there's so much attention on this and so much pressure that the government can no longer get away with anything that they were doing before. So, and now it's no longer a request from the government, it's a demand, and it will be fulfilled because this comes from the soul, from these groups, not from just a physicality agreement or a paper or a, you know, some sort of legal document, which it all was. But it's far more than that. They took that legal document, that entire report, passed it around to many, many hands, both governmental and from the commission people and from the Aboriginals and from everyone. And then the final handing over of that report, when it's all got it's got all of its ashes in it, and it's got all of its markers, and everybody's put their stuff into this document. Then it's wrapped in a special garment like cloth, and it's then given to the children, and the children give that document to the government. There's two male and female children in particular, and they gave that to the Prime Minister Trudeau of Canada, and looked him right in the eye and made him promise that he was going to, you know, fulfill this. And it was a very, very emotional thing that it was the children that handed over that document. And they were the ones that all of this was for. So it's interesting how that came down.
Rick, you brought up a very interesting point of enforcement. Enforcement of our wish. It just, I mean, we are doing it at the soul level, of course. That is very important. And but it goes beyond just the soul level, because as we know, some of the people who have been tied to these things are slow to learn. So they need a little more than what they have been used to. So in this, so here, as Mr. Keshe was talking about the reporting of the children that are getting lost, or I mean, so it's still going on. Yes, there are progress. There are things that are happening, but we have to accelerate this process. So yes, wishes definitely help here, but beyond that, as a part of the transition process from here to the world we are envisioning, we have to come up with things. The thing that Rick mentioned, that creating of the report, handing out to the governments, these are physical acts, symbolic as well as physical. So how do we, given what we know from what we have been exposed to through Mr. Keshe and all of us that are contributing here, and there are a lot of very good ideas here that we can use, is to have a way of enforcing it. So, and this is one of the things that is part of the charter and the mandate that we have in the Universal Council and the Arts Council document that also has it. So how do we, so we have to transition from where we are to where we are heading. So we have to think of some of these things, the act, creating of the documents, the legal aspect of it, and other elements. So, and one of the things that is to create a mechanism to report the missing children, and it is happening everywhere. I mean, whether it's in Canada, or India, or wherever, or South America, everywhere. It happens everywhere. How do we ensure that it doesn't happen at all? At all means zero. So we have to have a grassroots activity. And much like we are in Keshe Foundation, we are doing the plasma education. So one of the ways, I mean, I think all of us can contribute in making this happen. So one of the things I thought about, and this is not at the soul level, but at a very physical level, but it is just like teaching plasma science. At some point, we are making the GANs to understand the plasma field. So here, what I thought about is creating a global database of all the children that are disappearing. And the data entry happens from phones. It's easy to create an app from anywhere on the planet. And so the question arises, how do we create this software? So one of the ways to do is have school children and university students participate in making this software. It is because they are also learning how to take care of ourselves and our children and their friends. So and as they do it, we also teach them plasma science. So it's what world peace for the Keshe Foundation technology in exchange for world peace. That's what we are doing. It's the same idea implemented in a slightly different way at a physical level. So we create this software, and those who participate in putting these entries of each children getting missing from our neighborhood, and we have our own local school children participate in making it and letting their parents or their friends know that this is available on your phone. So we all do it locally, and we can take action locally based on the database of the local snapshot of the database. It's kind of like Google Map, but you can get local views of how things are happening in your locality. But at the same time, as local events are collected, international bodies who are interested in getting this solved get involved at another level. But the data entry and our awareness of knowing, everybody becomes aware of it. This is what's happening. These are who the people connected. And like, for example, where I am, parts of law enforcement are involved in it. One of my students who is who is learning plasma science from public teaching that I do, actually was captured by the drug people. So I know, so this is very firsthand happening in my neighborhood. So these things has to go away. So we create something and we create local awareness. I mean, a few of us need to talk to the schools, local schools, and And it's through young people, those who are affected by it the most. And they become aware of it, their parents become aware of it, and the neighborhood becomes aware of it. And we bring the awareness not only of this problem, but a solution. And we also include plasma science with it. So this is at one level that we can do it. And another level, we can even introduce the military in the demilitarization process that we talked about earlier. So the military gets educated and they can also come to these schools. There are many schools. So these people go to the school and educate them on plasma science, and they can help in enforcement when things are, let's say, beyond the scope of local activity. They are trained to come for combat. Here they can combat these people who are not yet ready to give up what they were doing. So this is what I'm talking about is very practical, yet doable, and it involves all of us, and it brings awareness of not only our problems, but the solutions, as well as several avenues of solution. We can all contribute to something like this and make it a reality. So anyway, these are some of my thoughts. I wrote some things and we talked about a little bit in the Universal Council meetings. So any thoughts? You can send messages to me if you have specific thoughts, or we can talk about it here.
What do you think about the issue of privacy for children, which is now coming up into the forefront, and we're about to engage into a whole new era of extra privacy for children? They're being protected on the internet just so their names don't get out, so that the perpetrators don't have a list of all the names of those that are missing, because that's who they're going to be preying on.
Yes, this is the people that have disappeared. So, and to some degree, there has to be, those who want to get involved. It has to be a group level, local group level activity. Mm-hmm. And those who engage, there are specifics of the information of the children that are getting entered. And also the people who are associated with these activities, those informations are somewhat sensitive, and so there are some security concerns. I am a bit familiar with this kind of world. So, but in order to take action of a child is lost, one has to know some information, and this can be available to the responsible people in the locality, because, for example, through the school, we talked about these children, the schools or universities getting involved in making this software. They can be also responsible to a degree of how this gets deployed. Yes, there are things that needs to be worked out. It's not, I haven't solved everything here. So
like for example, last week we had a notice locally that a young person had gone missing 3 times in 1 week. How would you enter that into your database? Some people want to go missing. That's the whole thing. Their home life is so awful that they go missing because they need to get away from the, or they just are, they become addicted or some other issue going on, and they don't wish to be at home and no longer are able to be controlled that way, and so on. With the parents, there's no connection with the parents. Or in the other case where one parent takes the child, the mother or father or whatever takes the child after one parent has been given custody of the child, the other parent comes and takes the child away, and then there's a missing child notice given. So in that case, all of the particulars of that family would become part of a database and so on. It would engage the parents, and then you would have to have the parents' names and other things enter into it. And it gets pretty complicated pretty quick. But yet there needs to be something like this at the same time. So there's a real dichotomy here in the world of information. It's the same with not just the children, but the adults. Do we go with our social media, Facebook and so on. Do we want everybody in the world to know everything about us? Or do we want only our friends to know about us, or only our bigger circle of friends, or friends of friends, they call it in social media and so on? And do we want the whole world to know our position at every moment of every day? Or do we want to allow software to know our position every moment of every day, like our iPhones do, or our smartphones? They know where we are all the time, or at least they know where they are all the time. And if we're nearby, then that's your location, what they call your location. Because eventually, if people are going to be using instant transportation services, we will have to know who is using those services and what their intention is, or what their mood is, or something like that. Because we can't have people just delivering bombs from one side of the planet to the other who happen to be disturbed, or creating havoc by throwing a school bus at Mach 40 to some other part of the planet. That's not going to happen. So we need to have full control over that environment. And in order to do that, we have to know where everyone is, who they are, and where they are. And in order so that people don't get hurt by things moving so quickly back and forth. And even Amazon deliveries, they're doing drone deliveries now, and they'll be dropping off parcels and so on. They won't want to drop a parcel on somebody's head, so they have to be careful about how they go about that, and being able to identify where the humans are in the scenario, and this kind of thing. So with our faster moving vehicles, we'll have fully electric vehicles within 5 years, and you won't even think about the cars as they are today. They'll be all automated self-driving, and it'll be very, very quick, up to 5 to 10 times faster than their vehicles are today, and fully in control, not having accidents. And this is the way it's going, but it has to be, everything has to have its position, has to be notated by the system in order for everything to mesh properly and things not to collide in that environment. So again, how far do we go in terms of the old big brother watching you kind of scenario that in a way we're working toward one way or another? And it's an interesting.
A simple example is like Amazon. You brought up Amazon. This is a very good simple example, but it's a very valid example of, like, in order for your package to be delivered, they have to know your address, your location essentially, and they know you. So all that information has to be there for the information, your package to be delivered to you, right? The same thing is true for, in order to find somebody who is missing, we have to know, okay, the person who looks like this was missing at this location. We have to start there, same as the package delivery. So it is a matter of, how much you release the information. It's the trust factor. We trust Amazon for it to deliver us the package. If we didn't trust the person that is then we won't give the address or let them know it is me who you are going to deliver the package to. So at every level, there is a trust factor associated with it. In computer security, you have a similar kind of trust mechanism that you can build. But who you trust has to be, sometimes it's implicit, but sometimes you make it explicit. It depends on the context. Like your example early on about the parents debate about who gets the child. There, the situation probably is restricted to a very few members in there. In a public, let's say a beggar getting missing in my neighborhood, that's a different story. So how do you, and so we have scenarios that will be a bit different, but it won't be a million. It will be, let's say, 100 or 1,000 different kind, and depending on the locality. And those who are locally active can take the responsibility or become active to enforce the trust level. So that the sphere of trust has to be clearly thought out for different cases. And this is where our local activities and local knowledge is applied, and it gets built up. This can be used, this knowledge of Canada doing it can be applied in India.
Maybe I was just thinking, maybe we need a database instead of the missing people. We have a database of all the found people, all the ones that are already have a position and are existing and are on the planet. And then if something goes missing, it's immediately obvious, because then it's no longer in its position that it was. In a way, like if you look at Amazon doesn't go looking for missing packages until there's a notice for a missing package, because everything is already in the system. As soon as that package goes missing, you already know who it's addressed to, where it was supposed to be, where it was last. It's already been tracked through the entire tracking mechanism of the Postal Service, you know, from one position to the next and the next. You know exactly when it went missing and exactly at what position. So you can say, okay, it went between this position and that one, it went missing. So we know where to look, or, you know, where to put our attention to find out what happened. And it happens so quickly now that, you know, Amazon is right there, and there's really fast for delivery, and they're very fast for repairing that delivery if it didn't occur properly. So it might be sort of a prototype of how to approach this in a way. And all of that information that goes to Amazon is essentially anonymous, and it's not like everybody's looking at your address or looking at whether or not even something went missing or not for you personally. And it could engage other groups to find out what happened to your package as soon as that went missing. And, you know, the post office might get notified, or the delivery service, and they'll look into it or find it on their floor or whatever. But it's more or less an automatic process that occurs, rather than this laborious thing of asking all the friends and neighbors and trying to you know, determine the last time someone was seen last Friday night at, you know, 2 a.m. or whatever, and such a street and whatnot. Perhaps we need positive identification, positive positioning markers for all of us before we go missing.
Yeah, but, you know, some people will contend that it's even more big brotherly than the other one.
Well,
you know, you
this is the thing. How much can we tolerate in order to have the instant communication? If everyone is becoming more and more psychic and able to be telepathic, then you already know the motivations of people. You already know what's going on in your environment. It's all obvious and transparent. There's no longer the big mystery of, you know, who the pedophile is, because everyone knows who the pedophile is. It's already been marked as part of their stuff, because they, you know, there's 1% of the population. We already know it's roughly in that amount. That's a lot of people. If you look at, you know, the billions, there's, you know, hundreds of millions of pedophiles or those with those intentions. But doesn't mean they're going to manifest something. It doesn't mean they're going to act on it. That's a whole different thing. So if you have there's many cities now that have the face recognition. So wherever you go, you can look in your iPhone and you can know whoever's in the crowd with you just by looking, you know, pointing your iPhone at them. It'll tell you their identification, who they are, their whole history, you know, whatever. So we already have this kind of technology. It's being used quite actively, if not by the enforcement authorities or by governments in some cases, then by individuals in their social media. And they want to find their friends in the crowd. And they just, you know, point around, the camera finds everyone. They might not have ever met them before. Could have been a, you know, Facebook friend or whatever, and it points them out exactly where to go. In the same way, we could have apps that show all the possible hazards in a crowd to a child. Okay, well, this person's got a criminal record. This person's got this and that tendencies. I'm going to keep away from that side, keep the kids away from that area and keep them over on this side because it appears to be safe. My safety app tells me that this is the safest part to hang out in today or whatever, you know. Everything is
only want to take photographs of the pedophiles and keep them in the database and track them wherever they go.
Well, the thing
would
is,
be a good solution, actually.
in a transparent, when everything becomes transparent, we won't need to have it in a database. It'll all be who are the protectors and who are the, you know, the ones who are the support teams that are the parents and that sort of thing. If they already know where the possible problems are, then you know how to take action. You go in the opposite, you know, you run, you go the other way, or you confront, or you do whatever is needed to take care of the situation as usual once you have the knowledge and information. If we all become in that way, it'll take care of itself in that sense.
Yeah,
I mean, we may need databases. We may need that kind of thing.
But until then we need to do something more primitive, but something
Right.
good.
In any case, the soul will take care of things, I think, one way or another.
That definitely will help. But
okay.
You know, this is as Mr. Keshe said, this will give us things to do as our job.
Exactly. We worry about not enough jobs in the future.
Yes.
Oh, it's plenty of jobs. This will be the main job. Support, taking
keep our children safe.
Protection and support and helping and all of that. Boy, wow. Jobs. You wanted. Whoa, no lack of jobs there. I'd like to kind of move on here because we're getting on in time and it's up to 3 hours already and we need to wrap up soon. And we have a bunch of wishes that came from the German-speaking community from Andreas, and perhaps we can address them and then we need to kind of wrap up here, I think. So, Andreas, can you help me with this? Tell me something about it.
Yes, hello to everyone. We have in the German-speaking community means Switzerland, Germany, Austria, we have 2 Universal Council members, or I as a support member, and we are both from Austria. And so I decided to ask in the German public teaching what the wishes are. And so different people from the 3 different states made wishes. And I want to support these wishes. And I wish that we all can support these wishes. We have, even if we are industrial states, of course, problems too. And one which came out was an important thing, that we have much differences in the states, especially with Switzerland and with the income of people, and somehow different things make it not so easy possible to interact more with each other. And also we have different knowledge seekers groups. So the very much collective wish is that we all start working together. And here we have 5 wishes, and I would like to that every name and wish stands for itself, because I'm very thankful for the knowledge seekers who brought the wishes up. And yeah, how we can change the wishes so that they perfectly can make the energy transfer.
So you want to leave these wishes as they are, but then also modify it to help give more of the soul perspective. Is that kind of what you had in mind?
Yes, something like that.
Okay. Do you want to read the wish, and we'll work with that then?
Yes. I wish for freedom and cohesion. I wish us to focus on what we have in common, not on things that separate us. I want everyone to be equally well off. That was automatically translated, and the well off at the end, I don't know if that is correct. I want everyone to be equally. And I wish everyone to be equally.
Okay. Any comments on that? One thing that comes to mind is the part I wish us to focus on what we have in common, not on things that separate us. And then, so when it's put into the wish to that not to, it's like saying, don't think about pink elephants. Do not think about pink elephants. Don't think about that the pink elephants separate us. Don't consider pink elephants. And what's the thing that you think about is pink elephants. So if we talk about not on things that separate us, right away it makes me think about, well, geez, what are all those things that separate us? And that's what separates us. So perhaps there's a way to make that emphasis on the not less significant there.
Sorry to say that. Could we make the wishes the next time? I'm not motivated anymore and I cannot feel it.
Yeah.
Please.
Sure.
Sorry that I opened my microphone.
Well, you're saying that we can do this next time around? Is that what you're thinking?
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think that's a good idea. Let's put this off till next time
because today it's long now and
it's too long. It's too long. Yep, we've
Yes.
gone too long today. Absolutely. Thank you. Excellent.
Thank you.
And also about equally well off. That means we all have to be economically the same way.
Yeah, I was
I
going
don't
to
think
suggest
that is
that as well. He probably didn't mean economically. It's probably in the translation, but to be well off generally means financially in the English language, not just to be of equal
Quality.
or equality. Yeah, yeah. Well, let's bring that up next time, and we'll get into all the details of these wishes and come up with our suggestions and so on.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I would like to wrap things up for today. Nikolai, you got your hand up as well, so maybe you got something to say, or anybody else that would like to say anything to bring things
I would
around
like
here.
to add, he wasn't in tune right now. No, Rick? If you're not in tune, you can't bring the idea through properly.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Rick and crew. I just wanted to offer my support in Andreas in formulating the wishes in a way that operate correctly in both the German and English language. And so I offer my support. And Andreas, if you want, you can send me those wishes in Zoom chat or whichever way. And I can have a look at them and do my best to understand the German and the English, and perhaps present that in a better way back to Andreas. And perhaps, Andreas, you could bring it again in the next workshop.
The
Yes,
wish.
thank you.
These should be in the KF Wiki now. I've just saved it, so you could go to the December public wishes, and they should be at the bottom of the list there, both in English and in German.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, I was also the one thing that I would suggest in the next session or whenever this comes up is that the wish actually be read in German first in the way that it was originally meant to be.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Yeah,
and then
that might help us.
Those that are able to can translate and formulate it. Yeah, so we get the proper translation through people rather than through a machine learning that might just screw things up.
Yep, good point. I'll try to remember that for next time, or if I don't, remind me.
You can also delete the wishes out. I prepared it fast because I worked on other things for today. And then suddenly a discussion came out, and now I'm too tired for it. But I prepared till next day, and thanks for your offer to help.
Okay, I think I'll leave it in as is for now, and we'll make the changes next time around and correct it and so on.
I think that's best anyway. And if we leave it in the language that it's written, and this goes for every language, I think, then the field of the emotion of the person who is formulating the wishes is more present rather than an English version then it's lost. So that's what I just wanted to say.
Yes, and Ursula mentions the Spanish community will be honored to share next time. So it might be a similar situation. We can use the original Spanish and put that down as if there's any wishes that way, and go from there with the translation. All righty. Any other comments here?
Rick,
Okay.
I think we should call it a day. I think.
Yeah, I think so too. So I'm going to put on the little donation video here. Let me see. Let me go back to this first. So first I'll just say thanks everyone for attending today's 98th One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace for Tuesday, December 3rd, 2019. And I'll play the donation video to end here, as well as the opener ending. Okay, thanks everyone, and we'll see you next time around.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Peace be with you. Thank you all.
Hello. We are the Keshe Foundation. Our mission is to bring peace on earth and join humanity with the universal community. We wish and work to bring man as equal to all the beings in the universe. By teaching the plasma science and technology equally to everyone, no one is left out and no one is abused due to lack of knowledge. Your donation helps us in achieving this goal. Donate to keshefoundation.org/donate.